there's a good reason why the number one regret of the dying is living a life others expected of them and not the life they wanted to live. And
Yeah.
that's why courage is everything. A man needs courage. Not only does he need courage because he needs to be able to stand up for what he believes in, and that applies as much in his personal life, professional life. It doesn't mean that you need to stand up to a tyrant, but I push it even further than that. Can you really trust someone that's a coward? You can't. You don't know how they're going to react to any given situation. It's always a gamble. So if you're not courageous, you cannot be trusted.
What is up, Impact Heroes? Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Rick Ornelas. Thank you for spending some time with us today because we know time's a valuable resource and we're going to make it worth your while. I appreciate each and every one of you, not just for listening, but for who you are. I know you're sparking change to make the world a better place every day, and I am humbled and grateful for your efforts. It takes all of us doing our part to spread positive change, and that's what this show is all about. Motivating you with stories of struggle, courage, and hope to empower you to make a difference in your life and the lives of others.
In case you missed it,
doesn't matter what name we have on our business card. We're all struggling with something. When we can understand subconsciously what's keeping us back and heal it, it allows us to rise higher, and we no longer are trapped by the law of the circle, the things that keep repattering itself into our life that hold us down in shackles.
Available everywhere you listen to your podcasts.
Welcome back, Impact Heroes. Today we have a super special episode as I am here with someone that I was recently on their podcast, and he is a very cool dude indeed. Our guest today helps boys become men, men become good men, and good men find purpose, which is super important in today's world. He is as in shape physically as he is mentally tough, and that never stops him from expressing his opinion with style. He's not shy to share what he thinks. He believes masculinity is under attack in today's society, and he fearlessly champions strong men. I can agree with that. He's blunt, unapologetic, and some even call controversial, with many fundamental beliefs like, without purpose, a man's life is meaningless. And I couldn't agree more with that one. He's originally from Canada, and he's lived in the Canadian woods for over 2.5 years. With a year and a half of that, he was just alone with his dogs. You can imagine a log house on top of a mountain overlooking a valley and lakes. That is truly a beautiful sight to think about. But more recently, he's traveled to the four corners of the U.S. and continues to explore the beautiful country with his girlfriend and dog. He's a mentor, Muay Thai instructor, social media strategist, author, and podcaster, among other things. He'll be fighting for all men to reclaim their manliness until his very last breath, whether that means getting canceled or even banned. So please welcome the authentic, bold, in your face, and straight to the point, Nico Lagan. Nico, welcome to the I Spark Change podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm good, man. And I'm going to add, you can't get canceled because I refuse to get canceled. You only get canceled if you accept your faith. And my answer to that would be a middle finger. So you can cancel me all you want. I don't care. Not going to happen. You're never going to stop me from having an opinion.
Yeah, I've never really, honestly, I've never really understood that term, cancel culture and all that. Like, to me, I always think of, just let people just kind of, people live, and I don't get involved in those kind of type of conversations typically because I feel they're nonsense. It's just pointless. So I don't see you getting canceled anytime soon, or like you said, accepting it. So I'm not worried about that either.
At the end of the day, this is what happens. We're raising our children to be in safe spaces. We give them participation medals. We tell them that they're awesome, that their opinion matters, although they are not very bright. And this is what happens. You get people that get offended by everything and fail to realize that if your views are never challenged, how are you supposed to grow as an individual? I have never met somebody in my life that I agreed with 100%. I don't even agree with me 100% from 6 months ago.
Yeah,
I create a lot of content and I edit all of my content myself. So I'm looking at my content that I recorded a little while ago and I'm like, oh man, shut up. No. See, my views have changed from 6 months ago. Don't even think 5 years ago. So how can you expect to grow as a person if you're never challenged? If nobody's telling you that you're wrong or at least showing you an alternative way of thinking.
Yeah, I feel the same because two things is one, there's no two people that are going to be identical on this planet, right? Even
Mm.
identical twins, right? I've known many that are completely different. And then two is that if you're not growing, you're rotting, right? It's not you're not just standing still, you're rotting in essence. So if you are not a different person from who you were 6 months ago, even 6 weeks ago, then I mean you got problems. There's probably some things going on that you want to rectify. So and
But that's most
unfortunately,
people. That's most
that's a
people
lot of
today,
people.
though. That's
Yeah.
not a lot. That's I
Yeah.
would be ready to bet that it's like 95 to 99% of people.
Yeah. I
I
was having
don't
this
know
conversation.
people that have the balls to do what needs to get done, even though they know that it needs to get done because it's killing them inside. But yet they're never gonna do it. They're gonna wait. There's a good reason why the number one regret of the dying is living a life others expected of them and not the life they wanted to live.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's why courage is everything. A man needs courage. Without courage, not only does he need courage because he needs to be able to stand up for what he believes in, and that applies as much in his personal life, professional life. It doesn't mean that you need to stand up to a tyrant. It could simply tell your boss that he's wrong. And here is why you're wrong, because you need to
Hmm.
stand up to him. But I push it even further than that. Can you really trust someone that's a coward? You
Yeah.
can't. You don't know how
No.
they're going to react to any given situation. It's
Yeah.
always a gamble. So if you're not courageous, you cannot be trusted. Your family cannot rely on you. Your loved ones cannot rely on you. Society cannot rely on you. So if you're a coward, you're untrustworthy.
Yeah, it's interesting that you said it's probably less than 5%. So just this morning, I was speaking to a mentor. I consider him a mentor. We consider each other mentors. We're friends. Was a former business partner, and we started out with okay. There's about 20% of people out there that want to become better versions of themselves. And by the time we talked it out, we ended up that it was about five. That it's really about five or maybe three that really want to become better versions of themselves on a daily basis. And it's funny, it's ironic that we were having that conversation just today when you bring this up. So I want to dive into Nico. Just yeah, I know this was going to be a fantastic conversation. Before we get into it, I want to dive into how you got to where you are now. And before that, I have to ask the first question that we always ask on this show is we see you as someone that is spreading positive change because you are pushing others to become better. You're having a positive impact on humanity. You're someone that we call a social impact hero, right? That is spreading positive change. And I see that in pushing others or making them feel uncomfortable or disagreeing with those, that does push change. So I consider that, positive thing myself. So that's our definition. What I want to know is, would you consider yourself a hero?
No, not at all. I'm just, frankly, I'm just doing what God's telling me to do. I have a God given purpose, which is to do what I'm doing right now. I quit a very high paying corporate job. I was a sales engineer for one of the biggest companies in North America in telecommunication. I was dealing with $1 million contracts all the time. And I decided to just leave it. I decided to refinance my house. I decided to cash all my investments. I decided to follow God and to say, you know what? Let's see what you got for me. I knew I needed to help men. I did not know how. And I bought myself a year and a half. I've been doing content creation and coaching for a year and a half now. Written my first book. I've traveled through 23 states. I'm still in an RV right now. We've traveled more than 20,000 miles in the past 16 months between the US and Mexico. Left my country, left Canada. We don't want to go there, so we really are looking for a place to live, and that's what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, man. My life does not belong to me, it belongs to God, and God wants me to serve others. So this is what I'm doing. I'm just unlike most people, I just have the balls to do what needs to get done because I refuse to live in regret.
Yeah.
But you know what, though? It does not make for an easy life because I could have continued doing what I was doing. I was in the works to, I was approached by Amazon that pays three to $400,000 a year just to do a 9 to 5, continue doing the job I was doing right now, just for a different company. I could have easily, my last house I bought, I tripled the value within 4 years because I did a full reno on it. I did it myself. I could have easily bought, I could have refinanced my house, cashed that in, dropped 3, 4 down payments on other houses, do the same thing over the next few years, buy nice cars, buy nicer houses, and take care of my family. I could have easily done that. I would have made millions over the span of the next 5, 10 years. But yet now, 16 months later, I cannot imagine ever doing that. I cannot ever imagine caring about money the way I used to care about. Like, no, it's all about what do you do for others? And this is the question I have for everybody. Why are you not helping others? There's a guy on my Facebook that posted a picture of Bezos. So on one top there was a picture of homeless people, and then at the bottom there was Jeff Bezos. And people are like, the caption is basically along the lines of, I'm all for taxing that guy a lot more, like Bezos. So I
Hmm.
replied to him, I'm like, why? That guy employs thousands and thousands and thousands of people. He's given opportunities to business owners left and right. He's created a service that we've never had before. Your fat ass can stay at home and order everything that he needs off the web without ever having to move. He's created a service that everybody uses. Not only that, but do you honestly think he's sitting on $50 billion in like a checking account? Do you honestly think that that's how it is? So basically, you're saying that he should sell his company in order to pay taxes for other people. But it's easy for you to say because it's not your money. But when's the last time you did something? When's the last time you actually, how much money every month or every week do you give to charity? How many times have you invested your time to go to soup kitchens to help the same poor you expect Jeff Bezos to do for you? And you know what? You never get answers to that
Yeah.
because it's very easy to blame others and say, "Oh, they have all the money in the world." Do I agree that he should give more? Absolutely, but I don't agree that I should be able to force him to do so. It's his money. He's gonna have to explain himself to God later on, not me. That's his. This is his relationship, and if that's what he thinks is best, he's allowed to be wrong. That's the beauty of free will. But it's interesting how people are always very good at pointing the fingers at other people, yet they make no contribution of themselves. They are basically as they're just useless. When you
Yeah.
said at the beginning, a man without purpose is meaningless, and that's what they are. And unfortunately, that's most men today.
Yeah, and I think why you and I clicked, if you will, is because of that heart of service, that desire to help
Mhm.
others. And so I know you're on that path. And I was the same way, right? I was worked for many years in corporate and was doing very well, and was very successful and had the material possessions and all of those types of things. And there was something missing,
Mhm.
until I figured out what that purpose was, to love and give and serve others. And so I have that catalyst, that moment that I've talked about on this show before, so others know that. What was that? Was there a moment in time? Was there something that happened, an event that drove that? What caused you to say, "Hey, I'm going to make this change in my life"?
Not there's not. I When my dad left, I was 14 years old. I started doing drugs. I started selling. I was an addict. I was an alcoholic. I was a thief. I was a thug. I hurt all the people around me. I was selfless. I didn't care. I didn't care about anybody else until I went back to school in my 20s, until I started hitting the gym, until I started being careful about what I eat, until I started doing martial art. But then I was still selfish. It was still all about me.
Hmm.
And that was like that until, man, until a few years ago. It was still like that. I was still always thinking about me. But I think that with age, if you have the audacity to be accountable, if you have the audacity to spend a lot of time alone, because you mentioned it earlier, but I did spend before leaving on this trip that we're on right now, I spent 2.5 years in the woods. And a good year, year and a half of that was by myself. So that gives you a lot of time to evaluate the type of individual you are. That
Hmm.
gives you a lot of time to find God. That gives you a lot of time to understand that there is something more than just making money or working. There is something more to life than you. You're supposed to be, you look at the Bible, you read the Bible, and Jesus says that there's nothing harder than a rich person to make it into heaven. It's
Hmm.
easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle. Most people don't understand what that means. It's hard to give your money away because the our pastor at the church a couple of weeks ago explained this, and I never saw it that way. It was brilliant the way he explained it. But he explained that money, you're just a broker. The money doesn't belong to you. God gives it to you because you're good at creating money. We all
Hmm.
have our different gifts. Some people are great at making money. Some people are extremely compassionate. Some other people are great in front of camera. Some people are great authors. Some people are just great at very different skills. And making money is just one of those skills. But that money does not belong to you. The more money you make, the more God has expectations of you to give it away. And
Yeah.
this is a very hard concept to understand for most people. But if you are great at making money, you'll see that if you don't serve others, if you don't have purpose, if your whole purpose is selfless or selfish, should I say, you don't have purpose. You have goals. That's the difference between goals and purpose. And there's always going to be something lacking. There's a good reason why people think that money corrupts, but money doesn't corrupt. Money exposes. You
Yeah.
were always that person. It
It
just now.
amplifies.
Oh, absolutely. Now it gives you the opportunity to be what you are, to just show it because there's no restraints anymore.
Hmm.
But how pitiful of a life are you living if you're not giving back to other people? And that could be monetarily, that could be with your time, that could be with your knowledge. There's a million different ways you can give back. But it's interesting how we don't teach that anymore. We there's studies that came out years ago that was showing that in Canada and the US, you're looking at about 60 grand. If you're making 50 to 70 grand per year, you're not going to be happy you're making a million because all your vital needs are met. So you making more money, that just means you're buying a bigger house, you're buying a bigger
Yeah.
car, you're buying this, you're
Spend
buying
more.
that. Exactly, but you're not giving it away because the average person is selfish. So you're not happier making millions than you are making $60,000 per year.
Yeah.
But these people don't understand that. And it's interesting because if you I don't believe in depression. I don't believe men are ever depressed. I don't believe in that at all. I believe that men lack purpose. Show me a man that is depressed, I will show you a man that has no purpose. Because have you ever heard of a guy that has purpose that's depressed? No. He'll have bad days like we all do. You have high and lows. That's the beauty of life. But
Hmm.
he's not going to be in his bed, not getting out of his bed, thinking about killing himself. Why? Because other people depend on him, because he has to serve other people. There's other people out there that expects him to show up because he has that gift, because he has that talent, because he has
Yeah.
that knowledge. But yet, when I say this, people rip into me all the time on social media because this is something I repeat at least every couple of weeks. I've
I
said it
think it's
so many
because,
times, but it's interesting, right?
yeah, and I do want to touch on something on faith, but before that, just a comment. I think that it goes back to what we were talking about a minute ago, Nico, is that people want the easy way out.
Of
People want
course.
the easy answer. It's far easier to just say, "Oh, I'm depressed," than to say, "I need to take responsibility for my life
Mhm.
and to do what needs to be done to have purpose and not be depressed." In essence, right? To simplify it. And so it just becomes easier to just say, "Oh yeah, I'm clinically depressed. Got a diagnosis. I need to take these pills," and and that's that. And it goes back to what we're talking about. With people making comments online, is that it's really easy to make a comment online, anyone, because you're not in a face-to-face conversation, and people will say things in a chat box or a comment box that they would never say to someone's face-to-face or a stranger on the street, let alone it becomes okay because it's just a comment, right, on social media.
But
And
just like
so
money
that's the thing.
amplifies you, social media also amplifies who you are.
Yeah.
This is who you are. If you are an a-hole on social media, I guarantee you that in real life, you are too. The only difference is that you're a coward. So you don't have the balls to actually be that guy. But
Yeah.
one thing I can tell you, I am worse in real life than I am on social media. Like, I'm not somebody that's amplified by social media. I am the asshole you need in your life. And I'm happy to be that person. I've always been. Now I just embrace it. But this is who I am. What you see is what you get. And I call people out all the time, and I expect the people around me to do the same thing, to show me the same courtesy, to have the balls to tell me, Nick, you're wrong. Here's why you're wrong. And you know what? I might not agree with you, but one thing I can guarantee you is I will go back and spend time by myself and analyze what you've said and
Yeah.
try to see, man, am I really that guy? Damn, maybe I am that guy.
You're the
So,
asshole that they need in their lives, right? Come on.
or maybe I was just an asshole.
Yeah,
No,
maybe,
I
maybe.
wasn't needed. I was just an ass.
Yeah.
So,
I'm the guy that would tell you whether which way I thought you were being. So just know that if we're ever hanging out in person.
oh, but
So I want
you won't hurt my feelings. It's okay.
okay, I didn't think I
I'll,
would. I didn't think I
no,
would.
I'll be just fine. I'll be fine.
So I want to go back to faith because I can tell that's important component for you. And I know you said that when you were spending time in the cabin, that's a time to, spend time with God and your faith and everything. So what I want to know is, have you had a strong faith all your life, or was that amplified during that stillness, that time, that peace, that alone? Like, how did it change during that? Because that's a huge part for me in finding my purpose was my faith, right? And my journey and the growth of the faith. So that's what I want to know about.
Zero. I until about a year ago, maybe 16 months ago, I can count on one hand the amount of time that I had been in church. I don't come from a family where they talked against it, but in Canada there's been a separation of state and religion. Like, the church and the state have been separated since the 70s. So it's not something that
Mhm.
is really taught. It's not something that's embraced. I didn't go to a Catholic church, and I was a Buddhist for a very long time. Like, I was for 12 years. So for 12 years, I did not eat meat. I only started eating meat again about 6 months ago. But for 12 to 13 years, no meat. I was a vegan forever. And that aligned with my Buddhist values. It was really, I do believe in a higher power. I've believed in a higher power for a long time. I just did not know to which extent because I never took more time to explore it. I
Mhm.
knew, when you're connected to your God talks to you through your heart. If you're connected, I've always been very connected with my heart. So but I always thought it was instinct. I always thought that it was something about me. But all along, it was just the way he chooses to talk to me. I just didn't understand that it was him. So it's really over. Even when I spent a lot of time alone, I did not find the Christian God. I was not involved in the Bible. I was not a Christian whatsoever. I really came out as a Christian about 8 months ago when I got rebaptized in Colorado as a grown man.
Hmm.
It's not something that I was until then. And I knew there was something. My buddy was my best friend that I've known for probably 7 or 8 years now. He's been a Christian. He's not somebody that brags about it. Like, unless you really have that conversation with him, he doesn't talk about it. Not that he's
Mhm.
ashamed, he just doesn't care to share.
Mhm.
But he's the one a few Christmases ago sent me a song, and it was a Christian song, and I've been listening to Christian songs for the past 3 years, but not more than that. Like, I never dug deeper into it. But this trip, the first within the first week I've started this trip, we were in Virginia. My mentor's from Richmond, Virginia, and one of the first weeks we were there, he's a Christian. He brought us to church, and I did not like the pastor. I'm used to public speaking. So if you're not a good public speaker, all I'm going to do is this. In my head, I'm just pointing all the wrong things that you're doing.
Yeah.
So I cannot pay attention to what you're saying because you're so bad at it. It's
Yeah.
hard for me to pay attention to someone that's a terrible speaker. But that opened my eyes, and my girlfriend and I just started looking. Every time we moved cities, we went to different states, we looked for churches. We looked for churches. We would look for places to go, being surrounded by other Christians. Just, you know, Tim Keller says that the Christian church is a hospital for sinners and not a museum of saints. This to me is exactly what it's all about. This is why I go to church, and this is why I was looking for a church without knowing I wanted to be surrounded by other broken people.
So
So
do you
this has
think
been going on for a while now, for a year and a half now.
so? It's a simplified way to say it is it kind of grew on you, I guess. You start to listen to music, you hear some more of the message here and there, and everything was
It didn't grow on me. It's just I'm very inquisitive.
mm,
If
okay.
if so, you know why I got baptized? Because I was in a church of 2,000 people, and the pastor I already knew. I had sit down with him. We did a podcast on stage at the church. It was awesome. But he was
Okay.
explaining how if you're coming to church and you haven't given yourself to Jesus Christ, you still have some work to do. Why don't you believe? Not only that, but even further than that, is if you're not speaking about Jesus, you're still not doing the right thing. You're still not a Christian, because Christians are supposed to talk about it.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there with a following, never talking about it. And I felt that in the 2,000 people church, he was talking to me as in, hey, bro, you're being a bitch right now. You don't have the balls to talk about this because you're worried about how people are going to take it. And that's what I was hearing. That's not what he's saying. But in my
Mhm.
head, I'm like, bro, you're a bitch. You need to stop being a little girl and start telling people how you feel, because that's how people connect to you. This is how people on social media wants to know who you are. So he was announcing, he's like, by the way, in 2 weeks, we're going to baptize people right here. And funny enough, that was the last weekend we were in Colorado. So I'm like, I looked at my girlfriend just sitting there. I'm like, yep, just so you know, I'm going to get baptized in 2 weeks. So
Love it. Love it. So you're, and pardon the term, I'll just use it because it's easy for people to understand. You're to use an old term, like a macho type guy, right?
yeah, yeah.
You know,
I'm what
with
society calls toxic. Yeah, absolutely.
no, I wouldn't say toxic. I'm using an old school definition. So I'm using an old school definition just because Muay Thai instructor, right? Stuff like that. I did Taekwondo for 8 years. I grew up in my generation where you got to be strong
Mhm.
willed, male, dominant and authority. Can't show your emotions and everything like that, right? So that's what I'm talking about. So growing up for a lot of your life, your dad leaving at 14. Did you have male role models? Did you have people that cultivated that, or was it stuff that you were figuring out on your own, or how did you become, the person that you are?
Over the years, you know, within a couple of years, within a year or two, my mom found another guy, found great man, great, 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 great man. But I wasn't listening anymore. It was too late. Like I wasn't paying attention. I knew better. I was idolizing, like I grew up watching and listening to gangster rap. Like I grew up idolizing drug dealers. I grew up looking at those guys and saying, man, if those guys can come from the ghetto and make millions of dollars, they understand something I don't. So this is what I idolized. And I idolized those guys for years until my early 20s, until I decided to go back to school, until I decided to do something with my life. But there's not, I cannot name one single person that has been there changing my path. I've met a lot of people, a lot of men over the years that have believed in me when I didn't believe in myself, that gave me
Mhm.
opportunities that anybody else outside of them and me did not believe I deserved. And throughout my life, this is the thing. I've always been very open minded when it comes to my heart. I've always been very good at paying attention. I've always been very good at taking risk. This is not something I'm not scared to do something. Even if something scares me, this normally is a call to action for me. If I
Hmm.
see something that scares me, I'm like, oh, motherfucker, now I have to do it. Now I have to do it because it scares me. There's a reason why it scares me. So let's just deal with this right now. But I've had some great mentors along the way that just believed, that just really believed in me. And but if I had to name one single thing that changed me, it's martial art. That is the number one thing that has martial art forged me as a man. If it wasn't for martial art, I would have always been the little bullied guy I was in my teen years. I would
Hmm.
still be a coward today. I would have never fought in front of hundreds of people, if not thousands of people. I would have never became a North American champion, amateur champion in Muay Thai. I would have never been able to stand on stage or to sell $1 million contracts as a sales engineer. I would have never been able to create millions of views I do every month off of social media. I wouldn't have been on hundreds of podcasts, TV, radio. It all stems from martial art. The day I decided to start hitting the gym and I
Hmm.
accept it, it gave me accountability. The day I decided that I was not a good person, that I needed to go back to school and do something with myself, is the day I looked in the mirror and say, you know what, bro, you can do better. And this has never stopped. This is the constant thing in my life that has been there for 20 years now is I will always look at myself in the mirror and say, what are you doing? What type of man are you? And how can you be better? And one of the things that resonates with me so much about Christianity, and this is why I'm a Christian, it's not even about Jesus Christ. It really just about I read the Bible and I'm reminded on a daily basis how much of an asshole I am, how much better I can be because
Yeah.
of a guy like him. It's not even it's what the fact that he died, he came back, no problem. He's God. He can do whatever the hell he wants. But if you just look at the type of person that he was, I'm like, man, I have a lot to learn.
Yeah.
Man, I can never be perfect because there was only one perfect person that ever lived.
Yeah.
So,
A lot to strive for.
but this is inspiration, you know? There's two ways you can look at it's either Tim Keller or C.S. Lewis that said that hell is being away from God. This is all hell is. You don't go to a place and you're burning. No, you're in a state where God is no longer around you.
Hmm.
It doesn't, and it's not because you don't see God, because you're an atheist and you don't believe in God, does not mean that God's not in your life every day. If you took the time to sit down and just look at how beautiful this world is, you'd understand that science cannot explain how we came to be.
Yeah.
It can't. The only thing that makes sense is a creator. But the point is that imagine how torturous you can look at a guy like God or Jesus Christ two ways. You can see him as an inspiration to say, man, I really want to do good. I want to be able to look at myself in the mirror to say, you know what? I've made this world a better place. The world was better with me in it than me dead. The world will lose a tiny bit of a spark when I die. This is what I'd like. This is what I'd like to be able to stand in front of God and say, you know what? I did more good than bad. But then there's the other way you can look at it. You can look at a guy like Jesus Christ and say, fuck that guy. What an asshole. That guy's perfect. Can you imagine being in the presence of perfection? He's better looking than you. He speaks better than you. He's taller than you. He's more muscular than you. He's smarter than you. He's better than you in every single aspect. That can either inspire you or that can make you want to hate him. This is the two ways you can look at this, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's, I find the perspective very interesting. And, you know, to be honest, for myself, thankfully, is I've never thought of it the latter, right? I've always thought of
Mhm.
it as I've always had the mindset of, inspirational, aspirational, accountable. You talk about, I think there's a lot of correlations that can be found in what you learned through martial arts and what you learned, as a Christian is discipline, accountability, right? Inspiration, motivation, all these things they're the same things that, that Jesus has taught us. And if we're listening, we can hear them, we can see them, we can find them in scripture. If we're not, they can just fall on deaf ears, which is unfortunately what happens with a lot of people. So at least in your case, you were listening, right? Maybe not at first, maybe not at first, maybe it took martial arts and then that was the wake up call. Essentially, it sounds like for a lot of things. And then, things developed over the years. And I like to say that, if you don't listen to God, he'll start turning the volume up, right? Like he'll
Mhm.
start turning the volume up. Like if you need to, like for me, I know a big thing is patience, right? So then he'll give me more and more opportunities to be patient, just more and more and more. I was talking to my friend about this morning, just more and more opportunities to grow that because like, well, you still haven't learned. So here's another freaking, here's another lesson. So you can figure it out a little more. And so
But this
maybe
is why the
maybe that's like
Bible
you.
makes so much sense, but we need to embrace it for what it is. Nobody learns because everything's going well. We learn out of pain and suffering.
Hmm.
This is the beauty of the Bible. Is every single story out there, every single person included in that book suffers. It
Yep.
is really up to you. How do you deal with that suffering? Do you take it as a lesson, as an opportunity to grow? Or do you see it in a way to blame others for your problems? Because these are the only two options that you have. Those are your two choices.
Yeah.
You know, Rocky Balboa. I'm a big fan of Rocky, obviously. But my favorite Rocky is Rocky Balboa, the one where he's old and they want him to fight the heavyweight champion right now. And he
Hmm.
says something to his son at one point to say that life is going to kick you to your knees. It's going to keep you there permanently if you let it. So it's not about if you not going to get knocked down. It's really about the fact, can you get back up? Can you continue pushing forward? Can you see it as a learning lesson, or will you see that as an opportunity to blame others for your problems? This is all it comes down to. And luckily, the Bible shows you both sides of the story. This is why not only is it history, not only is it speaking about real things that happen, but it's a psychological tale that anybody can use today if you're honest with yourself. If you're
Hmm.
ready to look at it and to study the Bible, don't just read it, study it and try to understand what it means. And try to understand in your situation, what would you have done? What would you have chosen if you had the choice between the two situations? What would you have done? And this is the beauty of it. To me, it's just a constant reminder that I can do better. And it's not, I want to be clear. I'm not saying this as a way to bring me down. I don't see it as a glass half full here. Or half empty, sorry. I see it as a glass half full. I
Hmm.
still have so much more that I can bring to this place. And this is what it is. You know, Bruce Lee said you should never speak ill of yourself because your mind does not know the difference. It's
Yeah.
casting spell on you. If you always talk bad of yourself, you will start believing it. Marketing is genius at this. They'll repeat you the same message over and over again, and you're going to believe it without understanding why, just because you keep on hearing it. So your brain is no different. But imagine reading a book that is covered from cover to cover, is plastered in stories of men and women that were approached by God, that were approached by situations that chose to either be a victim or choose to say, you know what, I'll become the leader I'm supposed to be. Not the one I ever thought I would become, because I
Hmm.
don't think I should be a leader, but those are normally the best leaders, are the people that don't want to be leaders. Why? Because the real definition of a leader is somebody that serves others. And this is the beauty of the Bible. You have thousand different stories that will show you that if you really want to, you can become the leader your family needs, your community needs, your country needs, God needs you to be. All you need to do is, as you said earlier, if you want to become patient, guess what? God can't make you patient. But one thing I guarantee you, he can put you in a situation that will force you to become patient.
Yeah.
This is where the beauty is. If you everything bad that has happened to me has put me on the path that I am on today. If it wasn't for the fact that my dad left when I was 14, that I became a drug addict, that I became an alcoholic, that I was really not a good person for all these years, I would not be doing what I'm doing today because I wouldn't understand the repercussions.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
I know because I can dig through personal history or my personal history, but at the same time, you can push it even further. God did that to me on purpose, knowing that that's the only way we learn. We don't learn when everything goes well. We need to learn. The only time we're ready to change is when continuing to do the same thing is more painful than changing. That's it. This is the only time we change. Rock
Yeah.
bottom is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's all about dealing how you deal with that pain. And I'm glad that you've taken what you've had in your life and put it to good use. So you're exemplifying the traits of a hero that we have. You're honoring your purpose, you're engaging your audience in your mission, you're rippling your message to others to spread positive change, and you're opening your heart to the world. You've done that on this show. So what do you think, Nico, was something that, like, the biggest thing you had to get past in order to become who you are? Was it your vision of yourself, or was it your ego, or what do you think was really like that last catalyst, that you had to last thing that you had to overcome?
It's time. There's no, it's been going on for so long. It's been going on for more than this story started 26, 27 years ago. It just keeps on evolving and evolving and evolving towards what I'm supposed to be doing. It's really just time. I don't have any blockage. I'm the type of guy that will dump everything today and start something new tomorrow. There's no ego in there. It's really just if I know I'm supposed to do something, I will do it no matter what it means. The day you accept the fact that there's paradise after here, I'm not scared of dying. I'm not saying I welcome it, but I am curious. Between you and I'm curious. If this place sucks, can you imagine how awesome heaven must be?
Yeah.
So I'm not worried. So the day you start to accept the fact that you're gonna die, you're gonna start to and you believe that something put you on here for a reason, that you have a reason for being here. You just need to follow that. You just need to listen to yourself. You just need to listen to what God's telling you and do it, whatever that means. Whatever that means. Because at the end of the day, it's going to be okay. What's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to die. Huh? Well, I have eternity to deal with afterwards. So it could be worse.
Exactly.
Could be a lot worse.
Eternity in paradise. Yeah, exactly.
But it's
So
just time. At the end of the day, it's just the best thing I've ever done is spend time by myself. As an extrovert, it was something that I've had a lot of problems with, and that's why I did it.
hmm,
When I left the city during COVID, when I left because everything was getting closed in Canada, I just chose, I'm like, why am I in the city? Because of my customers. So I'm like, why don't I move to my investment house and stay there? Because I don't want to be alone. Ah, man, there we go. This is what I'm supposed to do. And that year and a half to 2 years and a half that I was there taught me to spend time by myself. And now it's something I cherish. I get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. My girlfriend sleeps until 7. So for at least 4 hours a day, I'm by myself. I'm just working, reading the Bible. I'm just doing what I do by myself in the dark when everybody else is still sleeping.
yeah.
And this is I would rather fall asleep at 8 o'clock at night than go out just so that I can enjoy that time by
Yeah.
myself, developing whatever comes next, whatever
Yeah.
comes.
Same for me. I'm four, but same thing is that alone time, that time for just yourself and everything, to ideate and create and you read and meditate and do all those things. So you and I could probably chat for a lot longer than we have time for in this show. So a couple final questions that we ask all our guests on this program, because we talk about at iSpark Change those spark moments in life, and these are those moments in life where our actions or the actions of another have a ripple effect that goes far beyond the initial act. So it could be, a spark moment. Example of a spark moment could be your friend, taking you to that church, or anything like that. So share an example of a spark moment where either someone else impacted you and you didn't realize it right away, or maybe you're still haven't realized the impact, but it's having a bigger impact, or were you impacted someone else?
I can tell you both. I really started digging deep in Christianity because of a pastor that I met in Yuma, Arizona. Super small church. I was approached to go on on a radio show. The host of the radio show is a Christian. He asked me, he's like, "Hey, are you going to church while you're down there?" Blah blah blah. And he's like, "I got a guy you need to meet." I'm like, "Cool." I went to meet him, and he was the first pastor I've ever met that was a drug dealer that had a gang background, just like I did. So him and I, every time after church, and to this day I still do it. Like the two pastors here, I have them on speed dial. We talk all the time. We've recorded a bunch of content together. But that guy really opened my eyes that Christians are broken. This is the beauty of it. It's you don't need to be in shape to go to the gym. Go to the gym and you'll become in shape. That's
Yeah.
what Christianity is about.
Yeah.
They want broken people. This is the whole point of it is we don't want perfect people. We want broken down people so that we can help them. So that guy to this day, he's probably the main influence I've had in Christianity just because of the way he was. He wasn't a goody two shoe Christian that doesn't resonate with me at all. I don't come from this. I don't come
Yeah.
from the South. Like all the guys here, they know the Bible because they've been studying it their whole life. I'm doing my first cover to cover right now. So it's, but yet I understand it better than most of those people because it's not something that was taught to me. I get to dig into it as a 40-year-old man with a lot of life experience. So this is why it's so I don't take the Bible for granted because I've never read it before. So
Yeah.
it's something that is that has opened my eyes. When it comes to me impacting others, I can give you multiple things, but the last one what my girlfriend and I did was around Christmas. We through the church that we're going, they associate with certain charities and especially people, boys and girls in the system. So they had a list of children or teenagers that were in the system that were orphans that had no family, and they were asking people to buy them gifts. So they had lists of gifts, and my girlfriend picked a 14-year-old boy, obviously because of where my journey started when I was 14. But
Yeah.
my girlfriend and I decided that instead of buying us Christmas presents, we just decided to buy him Christmas presents.
Nice.
Instead, when she read me the list, I'm like, yeah, that's a bullshit list. That's a list of somebody that probably has 100 of those kids. Can you get in contact with that woman and ask her what he wants? So he gave us a list. We've never met him, but she gave us a list of the things that he wanted. He's a big fan of anime, so we bought him a bunch of stuff around
Mhm.
anime. And this is just one of the many ways that you can have an impact on people around you. I'm starting a 19, 20-year-old manly group for the guys at church. I was just talking about it with the pastor and another guy yesterday. I want to be a positive masculine figure to the guys that are too old to be in the youth ministry, but that are too young to be part of Bible studies that we have on Wednesdays. So
Yeah.
instead of me going to Bible study, I'm going to start giving my time to them. I'll teach them martial art. I will go out with them, go to the woods. I'll organize some weekends in the woods where their fathers can come. I know people all around the world. So I'll invite some people to show them how to survive, show them how to fight, show them how just to be around other boys. So this
Yeah.
is just some of the many ways that I can do it. And anybody listening to this, you could be a big brother. You could work in a soup kitchen. I've done that many times. I've hosted people in my RV, man. There's a guy 2 years ago that was homeless. I met him at the gym. He spent 3 weeks with us over Christmas. So,
Nice.
but, and it's not like we have a lot of space. We're in a fucking RV, man. But,
Nice in the background though.
but you know what? It's something that we can all do.
Yeah.
Everybody has the power to do that. If you
Yeah.
can't give money, give time. If you can give time, if you can't give time, chances are you can give money.
Yeah. Everyone has the ability to impact another and have those spark moments. So thank you for sharing,
No,
for both ways, because y- the the biggest thing I like about the spark moments is that, sometimes you see the ripple effect, sometimes you don't, right? You may never see the effect that those gifts had on that young boy, but he'll know. And 10 years, 20 years, 35 years down the road, what impact does it have on his life? So that's what I love about that. So, one final question here before we wrap up, because our goal at iSpark Change is to positively impact 1 billion people in the next 5 years through our community and our work. And we can't do this alone. We need the help of impactful leaders like you to show others the way, because many people feel, as I once did, that they're too small to make a difference.
Mhm.
So, we value your thoughts and opinions as a social impact hero on our program. So, I want you to peer into the future, peer into iSpark Change's crystal ball, and tell me, what can the world become if everyone starts believing that they can make a difference and that they can become a better person?
What could be the impact of that?
Yep.
I don't think it's going to change much. I really don't think it's going to change much. It's going to change something for some people, but at the end of the day, most people will never take accountability for their actions. So that's the thing. Years ago, one of my buddies was telling me that he never votes on the federal level and never votes on the state or province level in Canada. All he does is vote for the mayor of his town. And I'm like, are you retarded? What's wrong with you? He's like, where's the tax dollars spent? What impacts me on a daily basis is the environment in which I live. So this to me is all that matters. We cannot cause world change, but we can change the community in which we live in. The town you live in, the village, the city you live in. This is where your impact can be shown. But can you expect to change the world? No, there's too much evil in the world, man. And I don't think good can exist without evil. Bad does not exist without good. Night does not exist without the daytime.
Yeah.
But it's all a matter of perception. But I think the most important thing to understand is what type of change can you actually have? What impact can you have? And why you should serve others. And it doesn't matter that you're serving your family, that you're serving your community, you're serving your country. It's all a matter of perspective because the world has changed one person at a time. And that's all that matters is change the next person. Whatever the ripple effect, as you mentioned, is, doesn't matter. It's not on you. It doesn't belong to you. You'll have no way to quantify it at any given time. But one thing's for sure, you can't change the world. So change the people around you. As Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. That's all you can expect.
Yeah. I think that sums it up nicely, is that, you just focus on that person in front of you, as Jesus did, as, greats like Gandhi did, and that's
Mhm.
going to make a big difference.
100%.
Well, thank you for taking your time to share our heart and wisdom with our audience today, Nico. You came in, you over delivered, as I knew you would. Your passion and commitment are evident, and you're humble. You lead with a heart of service and gratitude, which tells me you're going to continue to have success in all facets of life. And this is only the beginning of your social impact.
I appreciate it, brother.
All right, Impact Heroes, it's our stories that connect us all. We loved hearing Nico's today. Nico Lagan, you're not only an inspiring and amazing human being, you truly are an iSpark Chain's social impact hero. We'll see you all next time.
Do you want Rick to speak at your event? Here is what others have to say.
Did not know his story, and it was so inspirational, and his presence on stage, his authenticity was just incredible.
Performance made me feel some type of way. My name is Craig Siegel.
If you're looking for a speaker for your next event, hire Rick. I promise you this, you will not be disappointed.
Visit rickcornelis.com to book him today.
Remember, Impact Heroes, every positive action can be a spark moment that has a ripple effect that spreads far beyond the initial act. So go out there and spark change. Don't forget, if you enjoyed this episode, then please smash that 5-star rating on iTunes or Spotify and leave a review. We value your comments and we want to hear from you in the community. Thank you for listening. God bless you, and we'll see you next week on the I Spark Change podcast.